Good morning. Let's go on the record. Shake-up at the troubled MBTA. General Manager Luis Ramirez is out and Steve Ploftik takes over. Do commuters have any reason to feel encouraged?
Safety is first and foremost part of the company's culture.
Well, that's not a fact, that's a contention.
The restoration of the Merrimack Valley gas line disaster is, quote, substantially complete, but Beacon Hill leaders not letting Columbia Gas off the hook. Swimming upstream, Kirsten Hughes has had enough leading the Massachusetts Republican Party. The outgoing chairwoman is our guest this morning. And
getting a gauge on the economy at year's end. Are you better off now than a year ago?
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Good morning, I'm Janet Wu, along with News Center 5's Karen Anderson. Thanks for joining us. Kirsten Hughes is our guest. She was first elected to head the Massachusetts GOP in 2013. The Quincy City Councilor and attorney has decided to step down at the end of this term. The new chair will be voted on in January. So I have to ask you, is there a bit of relief in the fact that you're stepping aside?
Well, it's certainly a good time to think about those things, and I'm excited to go on to something different, but it's a little sad.
You're an attorney, you'll still be doing consulting on the side, etc.
Correct, yeah, and I have the kids, so I'm always employed, but yeah, I'm sad to leave. It's been a great
Well,
run.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And we're coming off a tough election season for you in the Mass GOP. Outside of Governor Charlie Baker, there were no statewide wins, and there are fewer Massachusetts Republicans in both the House and Senate. So in your opinion, what's the problem?
Well, look, we're really proud of the work that our candidates put in. Certainly, holding on to the governor's seat was no small feat, and it's due in large part to obviously how great the governor has been doing, the lieutenant governor, but also our data and infrastructure program, which we've been able to build over the last 6 years. You know, we do have some friends departing the House and the Senate, and we'll miss them. However, if you look in comparison to other blue states nationwide, we did reasonably well. I mean, we were able to keep 30 incumbents safe, which again, in a year with a increased turnout is no small feat. So I'm proud of the work we've done, unmitigated happiness there with some of the wins, and of course we'll miss some of the folks who aren't going to be returning.
Let's turn our focus to Washington. President Trump had an eye-opening sort of photo opportunity with Democratic congressional leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer this week. Take a listen to this.
If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
He said he's proud to shut down the government if he doesn't get the wall. Is this good leadership, do you think?
I think certainly President Trump is very blustery. He likes to put provocative things out on Twitter. He likes to be pushing the envelope, particularly when the media is around and in these meetings. So I don't know necessarily if this is an indication of what his policy is going to be, more or less a posture that he seems to enjoy.
So you don't think that he would necessarily go through with this threat?
No, I mean, I think you have to see and wait, but I think, again, I think what the president likes to do is posture and sort of portray an air of strength, and I think that's probably what this is.
But is that really good leadership?
I don't know, it depends. Different issues, different times. I think it's not a bad thing, but certainly with issues as important as this, one wants to be careful about what they say. And I think the president doesn't always think. He certainly pushes the tweet button faster than his brain maybe makes the decision. I think sometimes it could be a bad thing, but I think this is the hallmark of this president, and people have come to expect that.
You supported him in this last election. Any regrets as we go into the new term?
I don't agree with everything certainly the president does or certainly says, but at the end of the day, I still support the vote I took in 2016. I wish the president did things differently, and I've certainly had strong disagreements with some of his policies, but we'll have to see what 2020 brings.
And looking ahead to next year, you're leaving after 3 terms as head of the party. There will be a vote next month for your successor. Who are you supporting?
I'm not supporting anyone right now. Certainly, I've known our treasurer, Brent Anderson, who's in the race for quite some time. He's been a great supporter of the party and my efforts to build our data and infrastructure, our field program. He knows 2020 is going to be a difficult year. We're going to have to raise a lot of money and make sure that our resources are spent smartly to keep incumbents safe, and so I feel as though he'll be the best steward of that that train of thought.
So what's your advice to the next leader?
Certainly to pick up the phone a lot to members and to candidates and listen to what's going on out there. The grassroots of our party is certainly talked about often, but not necessarily listened to all the time. And I think really talking to the folks who are out there on the front lines, working with our state rep candidates, working with our state Senate candidates, that's really the boots on the ground, the people who take time out of their day, they take the money out of their own wallets to support our candidates and to go out there and really talk to people.
So a lot of independents and Democrats probably are more familiar with Jeff Deal than any other Republican because he was on the ballot this time. He ran against Elizabeth Warren. He's also been making noises about possibly running for chair. Do you think he's got a good shot at it? Has he even announced that he's definitely going to do it?
Yeah, I don't think Jeff has announced that he's going to do it. I've known Jeff a long time, certainly had been a candidate of mine when I worked at the party in 2010 as the field director. And Jeff really, I think, did a great job this past year running against Elizabeth Warren, really carrying the message to voters that Elizabeth Warren had been an absent senator from Massachusetts, making her agenda of a national way better. So I think Jeff had done a good job doing that, so we'll see. He
was a really strong supporter of the president throughout the entire campaign. Do you think that would help him or hurt him in trying to get elected as chair, considering, the makeup of the Massachusetts Republican Party and the folks that would be voting?
We have a big tent mentality. I truly believe at the Massachusetts Republican Party, you have to in a state like Massachusetts. So I think being so rigid in one way of thought or ideological is a mistake, but we'll have to see how that bears out. I think, again, a big tent mentality and making sure that everybody with an R after their name feels included is important as a leader of the GOP.
One thing that is definitely not a mistake is the pop quiz. I know you love this part of the show. So the theme for today's OTR pop quiz, the week that was. A lot of things happened. Number one, what well-known South Boston family is filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the federal government?
The Bulgers?
That's correct.
Okay.
There are very few of us that don't know that.
That's right, exactly.
He is James Whitey Bulger was murdered in West Virginia Penitentiary on October 30th. 2, we learned this past week that the presidents of 2 private universities in Boston are among the highest paid in the country. Boston, that's the key, okay? One top earner is Boston University President Robert Brown. Do you know who the other person is?
UMass.
Nope, it's Helen Drynan, president of Simmons University. Ooh. According to the Chronicle of Higher Education, she was paid $1.7 million in 2016.
I am in the wrong business, clearly.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
We'll be right back with the rest of the pop quiz.